on Moose FM.
Welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking a bit about the Phase 3 of the 100th Street Revitalization project, which begins on Sunday. So a little later on, we'll be hearing from Whitney Armstrong, the manager of Scoop Clothing on 100th Avenue or 100th Street, a little bit about how the project is going to impact their business, or they assume it's going to impact their business. But first up, to chat about the project and how the city is responding to a bit of criticism of it, among other things, we're joined now by City of Fort St. John Communications Coordinator Ryan Harvey, live here in studio. Ryan, nice to see you live in the flesh.
Yeah, nice to see you as well.
Thanks so much for doing this today.
Thanks for having me.
So for people who happen to be maybe completely in the dark about this project, which has been going on for some time now, tell us a bit about what's happening in Phase 3 and kind of where we are in the construction.
Yeah, so obviously this project is overdue. So the underground utilities were failing. So I think it was 4 years ago now, we had that big water main break at 100th and 100th. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of was the impetus of the fact that now's the time, as this is obviously some of the oldest infrastructure in the community. And so with that piece, knowing that there was a potential for us to take a look at how the street functions and what the community wanted, went out to public engagement. And then, as you said, Phase 3 starts this year. So this is the third year of the project, and runs from 99th Avenue up to 101st Avenue this year. So obviously some fairly major intersections in there, but doing our best to keep the impact as little as possible and ensure that access to all the businesses are still open and people can get to where they want to go to as easily as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you kind of already said it. This was sort of a moment where the city said, we can kind of make lemonade out of some lemons we have here, right? This infrastructure has to be replaced. Let's do it. Let's look at how we can improve other things in and around it. So the entire street's going to be ripped up and replaced. Obviously, the as you say, the pipes and stuff will be replaced. And then it'll all be repaved. And assuming it'll be still the same as kind of it is, down to one lane in either direction, middle lane, sort of a turning lane that's used for both sides. And then the sidewalks, they're being ripped up as well?
Yeah. So basically from property edge to property edge. Mm-hmm. So all new underground infrastructure, the correct sizing of pipes and all of those things to handle, any future events, rain events that we have. Mm-hmm. But also in the past, we've come into some problems with the water main being too small to be able to service new developments. And so upsizing that, making sure that, if there were developments or redevelopments that happened, for example, new housing units go up, that there'd be enough, capacity for those as well. And then obviously with that happening, let's look at what the community wants for the future of 100th Street. One of the cool parts about this phase is that once it's complete, you'll be able to make legal left-hand turns at 100th Avenue. Mm-hmm. So you'll be able to go east-west on 100th Avenue, which obviously you couldn't do previously during a number of hours of the day. So that'll be a cool part for sure. And I think once it gets there, it's another 3 blocks of the same piece kind of done, street trees and new lights, and make the place look pretty good. And
kind of spiff up the place a bit.
Absolutely.
So, you talked a bit about like the sidewalks, property edge to property edge. So obviously you've had to be in talks with how that's going to impact businesses who have doors that say face the street and all that. How's that impacting them? What's the city working to do for those businesses, for example? Yeah,
so obviously a couple pieces. One, the process that we used for the tendering piece was called the best value process. So not just low price. The contractors actually had to come in and take a look at ensuring that they kind of thought through all of these pieces that we were looking for. And so they came in with a plan that talked about, how do we keep businesses open? How do we ensure that their accesses are maintained? And so for a lot of it, obviously, just like last year, construction fencing will go up, sidewalks will be left open for as long as possible. And then really there's a period of time, during removals and some tie-in work, but that front door accesses will be maintained as much as possible. And if not, then alternative accesses. So whether that's some rear accesses for some businesses, some alternative doors that they might be able to have, or, planning to do work that would require a closure on a day that say that the business is closed. So if that's, pouring concrete, we can pour after they close on one day. Maybe they're closed for a Saturday or a Sunday that they're normally closed for already, and then be back ready for Monday morning. So the contractor, Napit Industries, who got the contract again this year, they've done the first 2 phases as well. Really thought through that process, and so we've been in touch with all the businesses, not only right along 100th Street, but also on some of the off avenues. This year's phase will go through 3 intersections, but the first phase of phase 3 will only see 99th and 100th closed. And then once 99th is done and reopened, then they can move into 101st Avenue.
I see.
And so there'll be a few traffic pattern changes throughout the summer, but really making sure that people can get where they want to go as easily as possible, as well as, maintaining those accesses to the businesses.
Okay. So essentially the sidewalks, and I don't know if the street will be the same, they're going to be kind of torn up in sort of sections then. So one at a time they do this, so that kind of, as you say, you can keep as much of it open as possible at any given time.
Yeah, so there's options for us. So, as removals happen, for example, and they have to work in certain areas, there might be an option to, backfill it with gravel, and so that access is still maintained. It's really dependent kind of on which businesses they are and where they're impacted. Obviously, in last year's phase, for example, there wasn't very many businesses along the east side of 100th Street that had accesses off the front doors. So that was a little bit of an easier piece where we kept the west side sidewalk open a lot longer. This year's phase, it's the west side of this portion that there's not a lot of businesses that have front door access off of that. Obviously, the east side does have a lot more, and so it'll be making sure that those pieces are open and available as much as possible. We've been in talks with the businesses for a number of weeks for sure, and lots of them obviously were involved in the engagement process and stuff in the last couple of years. So,
excellent. Okay. Yeah. We're going to talk a bit about more that in just a second, but I do want to talk a bit about the criticism that, of course, comes up with this. Probably on your social media pages, comes up when we post stories about it, of course. Part of it is the project itself, the reducing it down one lane in either direction, the middle lane, right, which we've heard, and sort of, things like you say, like how it's being done, right? What do you think the city has done, or maybe you can answer this? What has the city done, you think, to try to address those concerns? Is there anything you can really do to address those concerns at this stage of the project, other than say, it's been decided, you had your opportunity,
Yeah, I think that there's opportunities for us, and some of the pieces, the commentary that we've heard are, some of the benches are the wrong way, or they look into, a hotel room. And so those pieces, obviously we can, take a look at, and the benches are just bolted down. So, remove a couple bolts, flip them around. As for this, the street itself, and that design, that was the result of fairly extensive engagement, obviously not just the 100th Street corridor plan that happened in 2019, but also the downtown action plan really addressed a lot of that stuff. And so we knew the downtown action plan was done in 15 or 16. And so we knew that it had been a couple of years. And so that's part of the reason why we did the 100th Street engagement is this is what we had heard a couple of years ago. Let's kind of reconfirm what we've had. And so we had significant community engagement on both of those projects, and kind of got to this preferred option. And I think that, as people start to utilize the whole street itself, I know that, the phasing of our construction season and the fact that winter comes and we can't do too much, obviously you have to break up the project fairly significantly. And so, yes, from 96th to 99th, is it kind of frustrating because of the fact that it is just for 3 blocks? Absolutely. But I think that as the project finishes and it runs the 10 blocks from 96th Avenue to 105th Avenue, people start to utilize it and understand that, previously we had 6 traffic lanes, so 2 parking lanes, and then 4 through lanes, although most people, when they think about it, they realize that you didn't travel in the left-hand lane. You always got stuck behind somebody turning left. And so it really, for argument's sake, kind of functioned as 2 parking lanes, 2 through lanes, and 2 turning lanes. And now, not only have we been able to improve the entire space for everybody, but also we've taken those and made them into 5 functional lanes from 6 lanes. And so that's allowed, safer pedestrian accesses, better sidewalks and more accessibility, as well as some street trees and some benches and some stuff that, entices people to come downtown and wander the street. It'll be really cool. I think that, as this construction kind of project finishes, maybe Whole Wheat and Honey has some, benches or some tables outside their business, and now there's a little patio there, so you can, go grab your morning coffee and your croissant and sit outside under some trees, under some shade, enjoy the nice, summer that we get around here. And also, I think that it's important that, we do recognize that for lots of people that is a main thoroughfare. I think that we've seen lots of people, use it as kind of a bit of a drag strip, that there's, fairly significantly higher than the speed limit as people kind of go down those 4 lanes and are trying to, get to the highway or whatnot. But I think that it's important that as we look at what our downtown could be and ensure that people feel safe walking down there, that was one of the things that we heard time and time again during the engagement was, I don't feel safe walking down here. I don't feel safe crossing the roads. The sidewalks are all broken. The bricks don't work because they all get chipped during snow removal. And so, the construction saw no bricks, no pieces of that. That was very intentional. And so I think that, there was lots of stuff done that was intentional and thought out, and lots of community engagement on the back end of it. And I mean, I know that, people have their challenges with it, but I think that we also have gotten lots of messages, saying, I don't want to post this publicly, but we appreciate what's going on down there. We think it looks great. Keep up the good work. All of those pieces. And so I think that, there's lots of opportunities for it to look really good when it's finished.
Okay. I want to bring it back to something you were talking about earlier about the consultation process with the businesses and sort of how that went. You mentioned the properties that have access right on the street. For example, a Whole Wheat and Honey. I think Scotiabank's one of those where their door faces the street and will be impacted by the project. What about the businesses that are sort of close, right?
Yeah.
So like our next guest, Scoop Clothing, they're facing 100th Avenue, so they're not on the street per se, but people may want to avoid the area because of the construction now and can't cross the street to get to them from kind of the west side there. Was there talks or was there an effort to reach out from the city to those sorts of businesses too?
Absolutely. Yeah. So really looked at this as we did last year is like, this isn't just, impacting the people on 100th Street. This is impacting those businesses on 99th Avenue, 100th Avenue, 101st Avenue. And so very similarly to last year's phase, there was, signage up that said this business is kind of down this way. This is how you get to that business. A little bit different because in the last phase, there was a lot of alleyways halfway down blocks. And so that made things a little bit easier if you went down, 96th Avenue and, wanted to get to, say, Homesteader Health, but it was up the block. There was an alleyway there that kind of helped. This phase doesn't have that.
Yeah.
But we do have signage at the end of the roads. So, for example, on 100th Avenue, you'll be able to come down. Let's say you're heading west from the Ramada Inn there, the Northern Grand. You'll be able to make a U-turn and then park right in front of Scoop Clothing. Do your shopping, get back in your car, head out eastward back to 98th Street, and then make your movements that way. But at the end of those roads, we'll have, signage up that says this is, Scoop Clothing's down here, Whole Wheat and Honey's down here, Computer Emporium's down here, all of those businesses. And so I think that that's one of the pieces that, we want to encourage people is, we've made it as easy as possible. We know that it's, a bit of a challenge with the construction going on and that some of these businesses are impacted, but, we encourage people to still come out downtown, check it out. With the construction fencing, you'll be able to kind of look in certain areas and see what's happening down there. And so, bring the kids down, stop for a hot chocolate, or an ice cream somewhere and visit some of the shops, take a look at all the big machinery doing some work in there, and make a day out of it.
All right, Ryan. Well, we really appreciate you taking some time to chat with us about this today. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Again, nice to see you in the flesh.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's Ryan Harvey, the Communications Coordinator with the City of Fort St. John. Welcome back to the show. Now we're going to hear the perspective of this 100th Street Revitalization project from a local business that will be impacted by it. So to talk a bit about that, we're joined now by Whitney Armstrong, the manager of Scoop Clothing, just off of 100th Street on 100th Avenue. Whitney, welcome to Moose Talks.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and excited to give our perspective.
Excellent. I'm so glad you made some time with us. So you heard Ryan talk about sort of consultations with businesses and whatnot with the city. I wanted first to kind of hear from you, if you can speak a bit to what you have heard from the city over the past, whatever it is, couple of years on this, and how they sort of said your business might be impacted. Was there a lot of communication? Was there any communication at all?
I think communication can always be better. I think that's for any business, any entity. We definitely would have appreciated a little more. We know that they have a lot on their plate, so we're not upset, but we think that there could have been a lot more. We received a couple emails, that's all. And I mean, I've been with the store for 3 years managing, so I've only received a couple emails. So I definitely think communication could have been better, especially alongside the other businesses with the city. It wouldn't have, been hard for us to schedule like maybe an in-person little meeting. But we're here now, so we're gonna pivot the way we can.
Is this something you were really concerned about, you and maybe the owners and the management group, that this would have an impact on your business? Or do you think everyone's just going to kind of get used to it quickly and you're not expecting to really see any huge impact?
Well, we're hoping that, considering last year we went through this down farther on 100th, that the adjustment period will be a little quicker. We've had an amazing support from our community through COVID. We also had a flood last summer. So it's definitely on our minds as a concern that this will be our third year going through something in the summertime. But we're taking this time to learn how we can better grow, how we can better serve our clients, and we're always thankful that we have such a community already supporting us. Along with our online store, we're confident that we will be okay, but we definitely are hoping to have more feedback from the city on ways that they can help uplift the businesses affected as well.
I see. The online store is interesting. Was that something you guys had before pandemic, or did that come as a result of pandemic?
That actually started a year before the pandemic.
Okay.
So I was brought on kind of to start that in 2019. We opened it, I think, on Mother's Day, 2019. So it was really amazing for us to have that already the foundation of the store, and that has really helped us through COVID, through our flood, and will help us through the construction as well.
I see. Okay. So, again, we heard Ryan, this sort of situation that seems to most directly impact you is that there will be a turnaround kind of at the border of the construction at 100th Street and 100th Ave. Obviously, again, no one will be able to cross 100th Street to get to you from that side. They're going to have to go around another way to kind of park in front. Again, do you think there's going to be a measurable impact because of that situation? Have you heard from customers even who have said, I'm going to have to switch to shopping online, or I'm just going to find it too much of a pain in the butt to come see you guys now because of the situation with the construction? I
haven't received feedback from clients yet as to the fact that I think we were all like, oh, it's already April 10th. Yeah. So it's kind of just happening really quick, but I can't gauge the impact. I'm hopeful we won't have a big impact, but of course the worry is there. I didn't know much until this. Actually, just listening to Ryan, I didn't know the sidewalks would be closed. I assumed they would be open on the 100th Street. I think that maybe there could be things considered, like the way Grand Prairie recently did their downtown redo, having those temporary crossings. Something of that effect could have been thought through, but we are hopeful that because this is a smaller amount that they're doing, coming around won't be as difficult. And we're just kind of waiting to see. I guess we'll wake up Monday morning and see how the U-turn is being set up. I don't know how far that will be. I don't know if that will be right in front of Scoop. I don't know what the access to whole wheat and honey will look like. Like, we're at whole wheat and honey all the time. So we're kind of just waiting to see, because like I said, I didn't know about the parking situation and the U-turn until I saw it on Facebook. So that was not included in the emails that we were getting. So I, at this point, won't know till it starts.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that they'll be open to communication on, like, talking with us to see, if we have a solution on something that might work better. But hopefully it will all work out. I know that they are planning to do their best to access all the buildings. Luckily, we are a little bit down. I just don't know exactly what that looks like until Monday, basically.
I see. Okay. You kind of talked about, this happening previously already. So maybe customers will be quick to adjust, because we saw this already last year, kind of further south. Have you guys talked to those businesses further south at all? If you have relationships with them and said, what did you see? What happened? What was your customer base like? Was there an impact? I mean, it might be tough to say, I suppose, because of COVID and all that. If they could say what of what was going on was because of the revitalization and not because of all the other factors that we're all facing.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. COVID was playing a big hand in all of it as well. We did have one of our management team members did speak with someone who was affected by the construction last year, and they kind of reverberated that opinion that it's the adjustment period that was hard. Figuring out where to go, how it's working. So that's why we're hoping the adjustment time frame will be faster because we're already familiar with what's going on. Again, I think, we consider ourselves pretty lucky because we're off a little bit. However, we catch a lot of people who are coming home from work and they park on our side of the street. So that is a concern for us for sure. And I know that was a concern. Going down 100th is the same thing. Oh, I'm going to stop there. I saw it visually. So people are visual people. So not being able to see us is our biggest concern. But we're just hopeful that with our social media, we're posting lots of videos that we're going to be able to kind of grab people's attention without them visually seeing us on the street.
So you mentioned that just now, and it leads to my next question. I mean, how much of a plan have you guys been able to sort of make for this to say, okay, this, as you say, people coming home often stop by at Scoop Clothing. They're not going to be going near you now because, they have to take other routes, right?
Yeah.
Has there been sort of a plan to sort of try and, weather that if you see a drop in customers? As like you say, maybe by boosting your social media is there other kind of things you've thought of that might help you?
Well, social media is probably going to be our number one. Yeah. We were hoping to see maybe some sort of marketing plan with the city that they could kind of help boost, give us a little bit of a grant towards that, because that will be our main source of reaching our clients now. Yeah. But through COVID and our flood, we've been really able to learn how to reach our clients through social. We've gotten pretty attuned with making videos and posts and things like that. So I'm not concerned that aspect. I just think that there is still a place for traditional marketing and, like I said, people coming by. I can't replace that. I can't replicate that through social media. So I'm just hoping that we can come up with something. I've already reached out to one of the businesses, kind of come up with maybe a shopping Saturday where we plan some sort of event together.
Oh, okay.
I would love to sit down and talk with the rest of the businesses, including the city, to see if we could plan something throughout the summertime, some sort of business parties, if the road's not going to be super functional, maybe we could do some sort of pop-ups, things like that, just so then it grabs people's attention to come back in. So we're super open to doing that. And I have a lot of, almost excitement on what we can do, but it's definitely going to be a challenge, but we're always ready for a challenge at Scoop.
Okay. So essentially like a plan to say, have it's a party. It's Saturday. Come have a cup of coffee at Whole Wheat and Honey. Come shopping at Scoop Clothing. Go check out Hive Cannabis.
Yeah.
All sort of your neighbors there band together. Make an event that attracts the customers to you who may be avoiding you at the moment just because it's a little harder to get to you.
Absolutely. That's kind of my pre-thought right now is some sort of maybe once a month, because we don't have a date when this ends. So they've said fall. So whenever that may be. So we kind of have to come up with something regular. We're going to be entering back to school at the end of summer. That is a big time for us for helping kids get school closed. So we're going to have to work with the other businesses and figure something out, especially even on the other side, like the optometrist, get some glasses. I'm not too sure yet because we still have to make this planning process. I got the email that it's starting April 10th a month ago. So that's not a ton of time to plan when we already are dealing with our own problems still because of COVID. So, that's basically it, is that I would love to work with the other businesses in the city as well. I just hope that we can all make the time to get together and do that.
All right, Whitney. Well, I really appreciate you taking some time to chat with us and give a perspective from a local business owner on this. Thank you so much for being here. And,
thanks for having me.
And by the way, make sure you support your local businesses along the corridor there. Whitney, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you.
All right, that's Whitney Armstrong, the manager of Scoop Clothing. Again, they're just off 100th Street on 100th Ave, kind of on the east side there. Support them. They're going to need you to make sure you drive over it and see them, along with all the other local businesses impacted by this.